Greetings everyone, Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Top 10 Songs. Today, another band that has been requested by so many of you. A band that I've been listening to fairly regularly since about 1979, 1980 or so. We're talking about AC/DC from the land down under, originally from the UK, migrated over to Australia. That's where they're most known for, I should say. The Young Brothers and Company have a ton of great albums over the course of their career and so many great songs. This was actually a very hard list to put together because, of course, they got all the early classics with Bon Scott and then a host of twice as many albums with Brian Johnson, right? Even more than that, with a lot of other great tunes. So it's kind of like, these two eras with the two vocalists, but music from both camps. Really, really good, or both lineups, I should say. So let's get started. I'm going to start off with my number 10. We're going to work our way to number 1. So coming in at number 10, I've got a tie for number 10 because I actually could have done like a 5-way tie for number 10. This probably should have just been a top 20 songs, but we're going to keep it to, we're going to do 11 today. So coming in with a tie, or in a tie for number 10, we've got the title track to Flick of the Switch, which I always really liked. And I always really liked that album. And that album tends to get a lot of shit from certain people. Maybe because it's not quite as good as Back in Black or For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. But pretty strong album. You listen back to it now. It's like that Flick of the Switch is actually pretty damn good. And I always love the title track. It just kicks ass. And the song that's going to come in in a tie for number 10, all right, there's my little mulligan that I'm going to pull right now, is from Highway to Hell, Girls Got Rhythm. There was like no way I could leave that song out, and I had my top 10, and I'm looking back on all the other tracks, and I'm like, holy shit, I left out Girls Got Rhythm. There's just no way I can do that, because that's just, man, that tune just absolutely cooks, right? So that's a tie for number 10, Flick of the Switch, and Girls Got Rhythm. Coming in at number 9, from High Voltage, It's a Long Way to the Top, If You Want to Rock and Roll. A great early Bon Scott-led anthem from the band. They've got so many great anthems, right? That's definitely one of them. It's catchy, it's rocking, it's just AC/DC at their early best. Love it. Coming in at number 8. How about a little Problem Child, right? I'm a Problem Child, ladies and gentlemen. Problem Child, another great, great tune from the early part of their career, from the Dirty Deeds album. Just a killer, killer song. Okay, coming in number 8. Coming in number 7. Let's go back to The Highway to Hell. I always thought one of the unsung tunes from that album, and it's always been one of my favorites, and I think the stamp of Mutt Lange is all over this track, but I still think it's a great, catchy, heavy rocker. Touch Too Much. That chorus just kills me. The guitar riffs by Malcolm and Angus, just awesome. Touch Too Much, memorable, intense, love it. Comes in at number 7 for me. All right, let's go back to, for the first time actually, for Let There Be Rock. How about the title track, Let There Be Rock? That's a great album. That's probably my favorite Bon Scott era album, Let There Be Rock, top to bottom. It's just filled with great ones. And I always just love that track quite a bit. All right, the top 5. Coming in at number 5. The title track, another title track. They did a lot of good title tracks, these guys. For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. Powerful. Looking back, I remember when that album first came out, we were all riding high from Back in Black, and then For Those About to Rock came out, and of course that title track kicked it all off, and we were like, yes! This is amazing. This album is going to be just as good. And then as we started to get through the rest of the album, we're like, yeah, this is good, but it's not quite Back in Black, right? That title track led you to believe that the rest of the album was going to be just as potent. It's not quite. Not quite. Still good, but not quite. That comes in at number 5. All right, number 4. Could be a little higher on any given day. I just love it to death, from Back in Black. Hell's Bells. Ominous, crunchy, haunting. Hell's Bells, just a great, great track. That whole album is just, well, with the exception of like one song, I love that entire album. Coming in at number 3 from Power Age. How about the mighty Riff Raff? Killer tune. Man, Malcolm, Angus, Bon. I mean, the whole band just firing on all cylinders there. And it's so energetic, so raucous. Totally dig it. Coming in at number 2 and number 1 could flip back and forth between the two of them. I love them both. Today I went with one over the other, but if you ask me a couple of weeks, like I said, I might give you the other one. Coming in at number 2, back to the Let There Be Rock album, Whole Lotta Rosie. I mean, you know, it doesn't get more fist pumping than that, right? Get your toes a tapping, get your head snapping, air guitar comes out, man. That's all there is to it. Great, great track. I've always loved Whole Lotta Rosie, man. It's just such a killer tune from a killer album. And coming in at number 1, again, I was tossed up between this and Whole Lotta Rosie, but I really dig this tune. This has probably always been my favorite from the Back in Black album. Freaking Shoot to Thrill, man. Such a kick-ass tune. And, you know, the production of that album in general is just so immense. And that song, for me, is just like shot out of a freaking cannon. Man, love Shoot to Thrill. So many great tunes off that album. But, you know, you could say that about just almost every AC/DC album, especially like the first, 7, 8 albums, right? So, as you can imagine, I've got a long list of honorable mentions. I had to try to keep this to somewhat of a minimum, but man, it was impossible. So let's go back to High Voltage, and again, depending on where you are in the world, right, you may have, especially the early albums, you know, you had Australian releases, and then the international releases or American releases all had kind of the track lists were kind of all whatever. So if you hear me say a song from an album and you're like, oh, but wait a second, that's from the other album. Well, there's different versions. So some of these songs appeared on multiple albums and all this kind of stuff based on where you lived in the world and stuff. So I'm just bear with me. You know the song, so don't worry about it. From High Voltage, how about Live Wire? All right, Rock and Roll Singer. TNT, it's dynamite. She's Got Balls, and the title track, High Voltage, which, man, sits just outside of my top 10, or top 11, I should say. From Dirty Deeds, how about the title track and Jailbreak? I'm not a huge Dirty Deeds fan. I think that's probably one of my least favorite albums of theirs from that time period, from the Bon era. From Let There Be Rock, Go Down, Dog Eat Dog, another tune that sits just outside my top 10. Bad Boy Boogie, Overdose. I wanted to slot in that top 10 so bad. Overdose, another one. It's just outside the top 10. Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be, another one. Let There Be Rock is just such a classic album. From Power Age, Rock and Roll Damnation, another great sing-along anthem. Sin City, killer. Gone Shootin', Up to My Neck in You, and how about Kicked in the Fucking Teeth, boys and girls. Sorry for my language there, but man, that word just belongs right in that title, you know. Another great track. All right, from The Great Highway to Hell, of course, the title track, right? Beating Around the Bush, Shot Down in Flames, another one of my favorite tunes off that album. And If You Want Blood, You've Got It. All right, from Back in Black, we got, you know, Bon Has Left Us, Brian Johnson in tow. Have a Drink on Me, killer. I love the title track still. I know we've heard it a million times, but man, Back in Black, what a great riff. That's like a sledgehammer riff. Love it. All right. Shake a Leg. One of my unsung favorites from that album. What Do You Do for Money, Honey? And Rock and Roll Ain't Noise Pollution. As you can see, I'm not mentioning another song on there, which if I never ever hear again, I'm perfectly okay about. It's one of those tunes that's been played a million times and I never need to hear again, so I'm not even going to mention it. All right, going back to For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. How about Inject the Venom? Another one of my favorite tunes off that album. Snowballed. Evil Walks. Behind You. COD. Care of the Devil, baby. Night of the Long Knives and Spellbound. All right, from Flick of the Switch, how about Rising Power? All right, This House is on Fire. Landslide. I love Landslide. That's probably my second favorite tune after the title track. Guns for Hire and Bedlam in Belgium. Some other strong tunes. Again, Flick of the Switch, underrated album. I think it has aged a lot better than what people thought when it was first released. Fly on the Wall. How about the title track? How about Shake Your Foundations? That's a really good tune. First Blood. Kills. Love First Blood. Sink the Pink. Playing with Girls, and Hell or High Water. All right? Another Underrated album. Next up, an album that I'm not huge on. Blow Up Your Video. Not a big fan of that album. That's the Way I Want to Rock and Roll. Decent tune. Mean Streak. Decent tune. Go Zone. Decent. Kissin' Dynamite. Probably my favorite tune off that album. That's really good. From the Razor's Edge. Kind of the band got their edge back a little bit. Thunderstruck, of course. It's kind of played out, but it's still a great song. Fire Your Guns. Money Talks. Right? Catchy as all hell. The title track. By far my favorite song off of the Razor's Edge. Such an eerie, ominous, kind of different sounding song from them. You know what the Razor's Edge, the title track, reminds me of? Reminds me of like 70s Nazareth. Forget the vocals, because I know that Brian Johnson and Dan McCafferty kind of sound a lot alike. But I mean, I just think the feel of that song reminds me of like Hair of the Dog, Loud and Proud, Razmanaz era Nazareth, No Mean City. It's a really gritty, grinding song. That's another that almost made my top 10. Almost made my top 10. What else? Got You by the Balls and Let's Make It. Okay, from Ball Breaker. Another kind of, not one of my favorite albums, but it's got some good tunes. Hard as a Rock, Cover You in Oil is kind of a cool tune. The Führer, Burning Alive, and Love Bomb. Love Bomb is cool. Okay, from Stiff Upper Lip, another album I'm not really keen on. House of Jazz is actually a pretty good tune. Safe in New York City is kind of cool. The parts of the chorus kind of annoy me a little bit, but not a huge fan of Stiff Upper Lip. But then Black Ice. Black Ice is a very strong album. Rock and Roll Train is great. Skies on Fire. War Machine. All right. Decibel. Love Decibel. And Big Jack. Okay. And then their last release, Rock or Bust, the title track. Totally dig the title track. Play Ball. All right. Hard Times, Dogs of War, Rock the House, and Emission Control. Rock or Bust is a strong album, I thought. Maybe not quite as good as Black Ice, but I think it's a strong album. It's a fun album. All right, so there you have my honorable mentions, quite a few of them. So let's go back and look at my top 10. Coming in at number 1, Shoot to Thrill. Coming in at number 2, Whole Lotta Rosie. Number 3, Riff Raff. Number 4, Hell's Bells. Number 5, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. Number 6, Let There Be Rock. Number 7, Touch Too Much. Number 8, Problem Child. Number 9, It's a Long Way to the Top, If You Want to Rock and Roll. And number 10, tied for number 10, Flick of the Switch and Girls Got Rhythm. There you have it. All right, AC/DC for all the folks who say I don't talk enough about AC/DC. It's interesting because I actually talk about AC. I've talked about them numerous times on this show. I get people more often who come to our channel and they see me talk about, Sabbath or Purple or Priest or Zeppelin or Maiden or Yes or Genesis, Jethro Tull or whatever, the stuff that, probably gets more mentions than anything. But I talk about every band. And they're like, I don't know if this channel's for me. I only like AC/DC, Van Halen, Aerosmith, and Thin Lizzy. And I'm like, well, I talk about all those bands. But you know what they do? This is the weird thing about the way the YouTube algorithm works and what they promote. So if I do like a show like this, or a show like Best to Worst Albums from Priest, or the history of Iron Maiden, or whatever it might be, very specific on a single artist, I'll get a decent amount of views on it, right? But you would think all the AC/DC fans would turn out in droves to watch it and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't always work out that way, right? But if I do a show, and again, based on your request, where if I do a show like Pete's 30 favorite bands of all time, or Pete's top 20 albums of all time, right? Those get like tens of thousands of views, and that's when I get all walks of life watching the show that aren't regular subscribers. And they're like, "Oh my God, this guy is like stuck in the 70s, and he never talked. How can he not list? How can he not have a favorite albums list that doesn't include Van Halen or AC/DC or the Rolling Stones? It's mind-boggling. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about." And I'm like, "But this is my list. I wouldn't go on your show, and if you picked your favorite albums of all time or your favorite songs or your favorite bands, why would I make fun of your stuff?" Right? But this is what people do, right? Because this is what the world has become. So it's just interesting how I do those random shows, which are just me talking about my favorite shit of all time, and they get 10 times the views, and that's when you get all the wackos coming out that like, oh, because Pete's list doesn't match up with their list, Pete's list is shit. And it's just like, well, in what world do you live in where that's a smart thing to say? People, use your fucking brains, man. I'm telling you. Use your heads. Come on. It's like, can't we all just like be nice to each other and respect each other's opinions on things? It's crazy. It's crazy. So, but anyway, I digress. So for all of you who complain I don't talk enough about AC/DC, there you go. AC/DC, a band I like quite a bit, and there's my top 10, or 11 actually, and honorable mentions. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on the mighty YouTube as often as possible. Don't touch that dial, because I am actually heading to the house of Jeff Young. We are going to do, in addition to me guesting on Jeff's radio show, Music Without Boundaries, tonight, 7/11 Eastern Standard Time. Check it out. All right, we're going to be doing kind of like a Halloween themed shows with all tunes about morbid creatures and things and characters and monsters and all that kind of stuff, talking about spooky things and playing spooky music. So we're doing that tonight. But in addition, Jeff is going to guest on my show here. We're going to do Yngwie Malmsteen top 10 songs. We're each going to list our 10 favorite tracks and a host of honorable mentions, so you don't want to miss that. If you're into Yngwie and his neoclassical guitar shredding, it'll be the show for you. So visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the time. So we'll see you guys real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.